Ace stopped dead in his tracks, less than a mile from the station. Battle-tested, composed under fire, and intelligent enough to use his muzzle to unlock a door, the large German shepherd suddenly froze so unexpectedly that Deputy Emma Blake nearly fell on him. His nose twitched, his hackles lifted, and then he growled. It was a low, vibrating growl, like a warning from something older than any of them, rather than a loud, ostentatious bark with teeth or growling. Ace gazed at the ancient oak tree's root as though it had just blinked. Emma moved next to him, her boots crunching in the frost. She said, "What is it, boy?" Ace remained still. The enormous tree was older than Black Ridge itself, wide enough to conceal a pickup vehicle behind it and tall enough to shade a house. The locals dubbed it Widowmaker's Oak. Its trunk was contorted, as though it had been writhing for centuries in slow agony. A scar, resembling a sealed crack, stretched along the base. Emma knelt next to Ace and rubbed the bark with her palm. Despite the cold and roughness, she sensed an odd, unnaturally smooth edge beneath the moss. "Hey, Ace," she said. "Are you seeing ghosts out here, friend?" Ace didn't respond. His ears were up. His stare didn't shift. That's when she heard it. A sound so faint she thought it might be the wind brushing through the trees. But the way Ace stiffened told her it was real. It wasn't wind. It was knocking. 1, 2, pause. 3, coming from inside the tree. It had started as just another Friday morning. Patrol through the Black Ridge Forest Trail. Check on a reported bear sighting near the Ridgeview hiking path. Same routine as always. Emma liked the early shift, the quiet, the cold air, and with Ace riding shotgun, she never really felt alone. They'd been a unit for nearly 3 years. She trusted him more than most humans. If Ace barked, you ran. If Ace sat, you listened. But this wasn't a bark. This was something else. Emma pulled out her radio and called it in. "Dispatch, this is Unit 14. I've got K-9 activity at Widowmaker's Oak. Requesting backup for an area search. Something's off down here. Crackle. Copy that, Unit 14. Sending Officer Ramirez your way. ETA 12 minutes. Emma clipped the radio back to her vest and stood. Ace was pacing now, circling the tree, sniffing at the roots, and stopping at the same moss-covered seam over and over. She took out her folding knife and gently scraped away the thick green fuzz. A seam became a crack. The crack became a line, and suddenly the bark gave way. She stumbled back as the panel slid open. Not bark. A door hand-carved, camouflaged perfectly with the ancient oak, hinged with rusted iron buried beneath the moss. The interior was blacker than night. Ace barked once, short and sharp. Emma's flashlight cut through the dark. A narrow stairway spiraled downward inside the tree. Wooden steps, mold-covered walls, and cobwebs stretched like veins along the curve. A chill swept up her spine. She looked at Ace. "You found something, didn't you?" 12 minutes later, Officer Ramirez arrived, winded from hiking the slope. Emma pointed to the opening. "Ace found it. The door was hidden under moss. There's a staircase down. Something's down there." Ramirez stared at the hollow oak, then at her. "You think it's a moonshine bunker?" Emma shook her head. "No. Too well hidden. Too deep. Ventilation shafts is running up through the bark. Look here." Ramirez peered inside. Ace barked again, then sat down firmly at the mouth of the stairwell, waiting. "Guess we're going in," Ramirez muttered, drawing his weapon. They descended slowly. Each step groaned under their weight. The air got colder, thicker. The deeper they went, the less it smelled like forest. It smelled like mildew and something else, something like ammonia and rust. About halfway down, Emma's light flicked across something hanging from a wall. A child's shoe, tiny, pink, covered in dust. Then a plastic bracelet. Then a ripped teddy bear ear. By the time they reached the bottom, both officers had stopped talking. The stairs opened into a narrow stone hallway, 10 feet long, 6 feet wide. At the end, a steel door bolted from the outside. On it, 9 handprints were smeared in the dry dirt, small, child-sized. Emma's voice cracked as she called out, "Hello, is someone in there?" Silence. Ace stood next to the door, nose at the gap underneath. He growled again, deep and long. Then tapping light, uneven. Emma leaned in. One tap for yes, two for no. Are you hurt? One tap. Are you alone? Two taps. Ace turned to her, alert and ready. Are you in danger? Three taps. If you love gripping stories where K9 dogs become heroes, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, K9 Miracle Stories, for more true inspired tales just like this. Every view helps us honor the paws that protect us. The backup arrived, paramedics, crime scene technicians, even a fire unit with bolt cutters for the rusted door. The whole trail was sealed off within 20 minutes. Emma stood at the door while the team cracked it open. When the hinges finally gave way, the door swung inward with a creak that seemed to echo through every root of the forest. Emma shone her light inside. 9 children, dirty, pale, silent, huddled together on makeshift mattresses of old blankets and burlap. Ages ranging from maybe 5 to 13, eyes wide, skin thin. One had a name tag pinned to their shirt. Kelsey in glitter pen. No one screamed. No one ran. They just stared. Then the oldest girl, maybe 12, stood, walked forward slowly. She didn't go to Emma. She didn't go to the medics. She knelt in front of Ace and placed both hands on his shoulders. You came, she whispered. Ace licked her cheek and leaned into her like a statue of comfort. Emma felt her knees buckle. They didn't speak much as they evacuated the bunker. 9 kids, 9 beds, 9 ration piles of food and water. Just enough, but no sign of who brought them there. No fingerprints, no personal items except the children's belongings, and no sign of a 10th child. No one mentioned that out loud. But Emma had seen it. 10 toothbrushes lying on a wooden plank, 10 plastic bowls, 10 blankets, 9 kids. Ace, however, wasn't done. He kept sniffing the walls, pawing at a panel to the right of the chamber, barking, not loud, but insistent, focused. Emma took a step back and called for silence. In the silence, they all heard it. 3 knocks slow from inside the wall. The forest was silent, but deep beneath its roots, something was knocking back. 3 slow raps, then nothing. Deputy Emma Blake and her K9 partner, Ace, stood frozen beside the rusted steel door that had just freed 9 missing children. The team had barely begun treating them, hadn't even called in their parents yet, when Ace started clawing at the wall. Not randomly, not out of nerves like he knew. Now, everyone stood there, paramedics, backup officers, even the crime scene techs, watching the spot where the bark of the oak merged into cold concrete and steel. Emma's heart slammed in her chest. The girl who first approached Ace, Kelsey, looked back at the wall, too. Her small, dry voice cracked the silence. There's still one more. The statement hit the room like a gut punch. Ramirez turned sharply. What did she say? Emma nodded slowly, eyes never leaving the wall. She said there's still one more kid down here. The other children nodded. There were 10, Kelsey whispered. Always 10. One of them, they stopped talking. Then she was just gone. He took her. She didn't answer. She just clung to Ace's fur like he was her last safe place on earth. Emma moved forward and placed her ear against the metal. No sound. Could be a ventilation chamber, Ramirez offered, though he didn't sound confident. Storage. Another access point. Emma shook her head. Ace wouldn't be this insistent for a utility room. She turned to the crime tech. We need to open that panel. It took half an hour to find the bolts and hinges buried under the grime. It wasn't built to be opened from this side. The fire crew came back with crowbars and drills. Dust rained down as the wall was slowly pulled apart. Emma held her breath. Ace sat next to her, his eyes locked on the crack forming in the steel. When the panel finally opened, it revealed a narrow crawl space, just wide enough for a small adult or child. It reeked of sweat, mold, and something worse, something sharp and sterile, like bleach and decay. Emma's light caught on something. A pile of torn pages, crayons, a ragged pair of jeans, a pale sock with tiny strawberries printed on it. Then came the sound, barely a whisper, a whimper. Ace lunged forward, but Emma held him back. Wait, buddy, let me go first. She crouched, gun holstered, flashlight in hand, crawling through the tunnel on her elbows. The space was tight and cold. Her vest scraped the walls. The smell made her gag. 10 feet in, the tunnel bent sharply left. That's when she saw her, a little girl, maybe 7 or 8, curled into a ball beneath a wool blanket, eyes wide open, staring at Emma without blinking. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Emma froze. Hey, it's okay. My name's Emma. You're safe now. I promise. The girl didn't move. Emma reached forward slowly. Can I touch your hand? The girl blinked once. Emma placed her fingers gently against hers, and the girl flinched. Her skin was ice cold. Emma carried her out in her arms. When she emerged into the chamber, the room fell silent again. Even the children who had been rescued earlier started to cry softly, some out of joy, some out of recognition. Kelsey ran forward and touched the girl's face. She's real. Her name was Leia. No one knew her last name. She hadn't spoken in weeks, maybe longer, but she was alive. And when Ace came close, Leia didn't flinch. She reached out and placed her tiny hand on his snout. He licked it once, gently. That was the first time she smiled. By nightfall, the story had broken wide. 9, now 10, children rescued from a secret bunker buried beneath an ancient oak tree in rural Black Ridge. Headlines ran across the nation. K9 dog discovers underground prison. 10 children found alive in forest bunker. Small town deputy and hero dog crack cold case. But the mood in the department wasn't celebratory. Something was off. The room had food for 12. Sleeping pads for 11. One toothbrush sat unused. There were 2 first aid kits. One was missing scissors and gauze. And most chilling of all, there were no signs of entry, no fingerprints, no camera systems, no surveillance wiring. It was like someone had disappeared into smoke or was still hiding. Emma stayed up late reviewing every photo, every report. Her small office in the sheriff's station smelled of old coffee and damp uniforms. Ace lay curled on a rug beside her desk, eyes flicking open each time she shifted in her chair. At 1:42 a.m., she finally stopped. There was one picture, one tiny detail she couldn't ignore. In the original chamber, carved into the wood above the steel door, there were faint scratches, not just marks, letters. She enhanced the photo on her monitor, zoomed in. It read, "I keep what's mine." Her skin went cold. She returned to the tree at dawn, alone. Ace followed close, never leaving her side. She walked the trail in silence, no breeze, no bird song. Even the forest seemed to hold its breath. The oak stood tall, unmoved. The door had been sealed with police tape, but Emma knew it wouldn't matter. Whoever had built this bunker, whoever had kept 10 children beneath the roots of forest, knew how to disappear. She approached the tree slowly. Ace growled again, but this time it wasn't at the ground. He was looking up. Emma raised her flashlight. High in the branches, nestled between 2 thick limbs, was a camera, a motion-activated trail cam, hidden under a branch cloaked in moss. She called it in. The evidence team arrived by 7 a.m., and the SD card inside had one single file, a video, 37 seconds long, shaky footage. The chamber before the rescue, children asleep, someone whispering to the camera in a deep, distorted voice. And at the very end, just before the footage cut, a man's shadow leaned over the lens and said, 10, but not the last. Emma didn't sleep that night. Neither did Ace. The forest didn't sleep. Even after the children were rescued, even after the tree was sealed off and the press vans left town, Black Ridge felt different, colder. The townsfolk started avoiding the woods altogether. Hikers canceled their weekend plans. Parents kept their kids home from school. Something had shifted, as if the forest itself had eyes. Deputy Emma Blake hadn't slept since the video surfaced. She'd watched it nearly 50 times. 37 seconds of shadowy footage showing the kids asleep underground, and then the whisper at the end, 10 but not the last. Her K9 partner, Ace, could feel it too. The big shepherd had stopped eating his breakfast, pacing near the door instead, ears up, growling at shadows only he could hear. That morning, Sheriff Hank Vickers called her into his office. Hank was old school, a Vietnam vet, stiff shoulders, tough as nails, but this case was wearing him down. "Sit down, Blake," he said, rubbing his temples. "I just got off the phone with the FBI." Emma stayed standing. "And they're sending a behavioral analyst. Couple of texts, too. This thing's bigger than we thought." Emma folded her arms. "No kidding." Hank sighed. "They're also taking the evidence, video, camera, bunker files, all of it." She flinched. "Sir, we're the ones who found the kids. Ace tracked that location. We cracked the case. And now they're going to roll in. They're not here to erase you, Emma. They just don't want more kids getting taken. Neither do I." Emma didn't answer. Hank leaned forward. "Look, off the record, I think the guy who built that place has been watching this town for years, maybe even longer. No footprints, no tire tracks, no fingerprints. That's not a first-timer." Emma nodded slowly. "You think he's local?" "I think he knows these woods better than we do." Later that day, Emma took Ace back to the tree. Not to poke around, not to find more evidence, just to listen. They sat at the base of the massive oak in silence. Sunlight filtered through the branches above, painting the forest floor in soft gold. Ace sniffed the air, ears flicking every few seconds. Emma closed her eyes and tried to hear it, that strange knocking they'd heard before opening the chamber. But all she could hear now was wind. Then Ace stood up, not barked, not growled, just stood and stared straight into the woods. His body was tense, tail straight, eyes locked. Emma stood beside him and followed his gaze. The forest ahead looked normal, ferns, pine needles, a scattering of birds. But Ace didn't blink. She narrowed her eyes. There, just beyond a line of trees, was a flash of color, something blue. Emma stepped forward slowly. When they got closer, she saw it. A child's backpack, faded and torn, Spider-Man print, mold growing on one strap. A tag inside, property of Ethan M. She called it in. Within 30 minutes. The clearing was crawling with uniforms and crime scene tape. Another cold case cracked wide open. Ethan Monroe had disappeared 3 years ago on his walk home from school. Everyone had assumed he'd been snatched while crossing county lines. A long-shot Amber Alert had gone out. No leads, no sightings. Now his backpack was 200 feet from the tree. Emma and Ace stood back as forensics swept the area. She watched the CSI team carefully zip the pack into an evidence bag. Her stomach churned. "I don't get it," Ramirez muttered beside her. "If this guy's been doing this for years, why leave something now? Why get sloppy?" Emma stared into the trees. "Maybe it's not sloppy. Maybe it's a message." Ace whined and nudged her leg. She looked down. "What is it, boy?" He was staring at the base of a nearby pine. Emma followed. There, carved into the bark with something sharp, were 3 words. "Still watching you." The FBI arrived that night. Agent Jordan Black was in his late 40s, clean-cut, no-nonsense, the type of guy who could read your past from the way you folded your arms. He set up shop in the sheriff's office, pinning maps, photos, and timelines on the corkboard like he was building a jigsaw puzzle without edges. You've got a predator with long-term planning, zero digital footprint, and an obsession with control, Black said as Emma watched from the corner of the room. "Who carves warnings into trees?" she asked quietly. Black didn't look up. "The kind of man who thinks he's smarter than all of us." The next day, Emma took Ace out again, this time deeper into the woods. They followed no trail, just Ace's nose. 2 hours in, he stopped. His ears perked. He sniffed the ground, circled twice, and sat down beside a mound of fresh earth. Emma dropped to her knees. The soil had been turned recently, still loose. She started digging with her gloves. A foot down, her fingers hit something hard. Plastic. She cleared more dirt. It was a toolbox, chained shut. They brought it back under tight security. Forensics cracked it open that night. Inside, a silver whistle, an old Polaroid camera for photos of young children taken while they slept, and a journal written in jagged handwriting. The final page read, "The tree keeps my secrets," but one of them ran. Emma stared at the page until her vision blurred. The others were gone, but one escaped. She didn't sleep that night. Neither did Ace. By morning, a new report came in. A local teacher from a nearby elementary school had noticed a new student in her 3rd grade class, A quiet girl, withdrawn, refused to give her real name, had transferred in last week with no paperwork, just a handwritten note from a man claiming to be her uncle. The note read, "Keep her busy. She loves books." Emma's heart raced. She grabbed her keys, called for backup, and loaded Ace into the cruiser. 15 minutes later, they pulled into the small brick school. The girl was sitting in the corner of the library when they arrived. Long dark hair, pale skin, wide, watchful eyes. When Ace entered the room, she didn't scream or cry. She smiled and whispered, "You found me." The girl's name was Emily. At least that's what she said once she was safe. She sat cross-legged in a small conference room at the Black Ridge Sheriff's Department, wrapped in a fleece blanket with steaming hot cocoa between her hands. She didn't speak much, just enough to answer basic questions. No last name, no details about her uncle, just the same sentence over and over again. He lived in the tree. Deputy Emma Blake leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching her quietly. Ace lay at the girl's feet, tail wagging softly, ears alert. Emily had latched onto the dog instantly, whispering to him as if they shared a language. Emma was starting to believe they did. Agent Jordan Black watched from the two-way mirror. "She's not making it up," he said to Ramirez. "There's trauma markers, disassociation, classic symptoms of long-term captivity." "But she wasn't in the bunker," Ramirez replied. "We searched that entire space. No trace of her." Black tapped a folder in his hand. "Her school records disappeared a year ago. Foster family she lived with, gone. House burned down 3 months ago in a freak kitchen fire. No survivors." Ramirez exhaled. "He's been hiding her this whole time." Black nodded. "Until she escaped." Ramirez looked at the window again. "How the hell does a kid run away from someone who plans this well?" Black gave a grim smile. "Because kids are smarter than monsters think." Emma sat down across from Emily later that evening. "No more questions today," she promised. "Just want to sit with you." Emily didn't speak, just sipped her cocoa. After a minute, she said softly, "He didn't know I was awake." Emma looked up. Emily's eyes never left the mug. "He would hum songs, old songs. Said the tree talked to him, said it told him who was bad." Emma swallowed. "And what happened if they were bad?" Emily looked up, voice thin. "They didn't come back." Ace stood up suddenly, growled toward the hallway. Emma rose quickly, hand resting on her holster. Then Ramirez poked his head in. "We got something." An abandoned hunting cabin 3 miles south of the tree. No name on the deed. Records vanished in the 80s. A local hiker found it while tracking deer. Noticed freshly chopped by the door, but no smoke from the chimney. When agents arrived, the place was cold, empty but not untouched. Inside, they found a rustic cot with zip ties bolted to each corner, a pile of burned documents in the fireplace, a children's storybook, The Giving Tree, with pages torn out and carved into the cabin wall. Again, 10 but not the last. Emma stood in that room for nearly 10 minutes without moving, her hands clenched at her sides. "Why the tree?" she whispered. Agent Black was beside her. "Trees, don't forget," he said. "This guy, he's building something symbolic, something ritualistic. He's not just hiding children. He's making them part of a belief system." Emma's jaw tightened. Emily said he thought the tree talked to him. Black nodded. "Then we're not chasing a predator. We're chasing a prophet." They took Emily to a safe house that night. Emma insisted on staying close. She sat on the porch with a thermos of coffee and her hand on Ace's collar. Stars blinked overhead, the wind whispering to pines, peaceful, but never truly still. Just past midnight, Ace tensed. He rose slowly, growling low. Emma followed his gaze out into the field beyond the fence. A figure, just standing there, too far to make out details, but close enough to feel seen. Emma drew her sidearm and raised her flashlight. "Sheriff's Department. Hands where I can see them." No response. She stepped forward. The beam of her light shook slightly. Her finger hovered over the trigger guard. Then the figure turned and walked into the woods. Vanished. In the morning, tracks were found at the edge of property. Bare feet, Average size, no shoes, no socks. Just a man walking barefoot through the frozen woods like it was home. Black stared at the prince. He's watching us. Emma nodded. He's watching her. Later that day, the FBI brought in scent articles, sheets, clothes, toothbrushes from the known victims in the tree chamber. They wanted to test Ace again, see if he could identify anything new. Emma gave the command. Ace sniffed each item with discipline. Then he paused at one blanket, nosed it once, barked sharply, and turned toward the door. "You've got something?" Emma asked. Ace barked again. She grabbed her gear and followed him out. He led them southeast away from the tree, into a ravine choked with old brush and fallen logs. Emma kept her eyes on the terrain. No trails, no footprints, just deer paths and forgotten hunting lanes. Then Ace stopped. He turned toward a moss-covered rock face, sniffed, growled. Emma stepped forward, brushing aside leaves. There was a trap door half buried, reinforced with rusted hinges. They called it in. Backup arrived. Agent Black took one look at the design and shook his head. Same materials, same construction. This guy's got multiple sites. They pried it open. A ladder descended into blackness. Emma clicked her flashlight on and started down. This bunker was smaller, just one room, but the details were the same. Cots, chains, food stores, ventilation shafts. It had been used recently, and carved into the wall in long, uneven slashes. She saw too much. In the far corner of the bunker, they found something new, a photo album, not just of children, but the town. Old newspaper clippings, church bulletins, class photos from the 90s, even a grainy image of young Emma Blake, age 10, standing in front of her elementary school. Emma flipped the page. There was her mother, her father, photos from a church potluck. This wasn't just a predator. This was personal. Back above ground, Black was already barking orders. We locked down every local record going back 40 years. Anyone who worked with kids, anyone who disappeared and came back. Teachers, clergy, janitors, custodians, hell, bus drivers. We start from the inside. Emma walked toward her cruiser in a daze. Ace nudged her hand gently. She knelt down, fingers shaking. "We're not dealing with a stranger, are we?" she whispered. Ace didn't bark. He didn't move. He just stared back at the forest with the same quiet certainty he always had, as if he'd already known. That night, Emily spoke again. Just one sentence. "He told me the roots go all the way under town." Those were the words Emily whispered as she sat curled up in a blanket, her small voice barely audible above the soft hum of the heater. Deputy Emma Blake stood in the corner of the safe house living room, hand gripping the back of a chair. Emily hadn't spoken for hours, not since the team uncovered the second underground chamber, not since they found the old photo album that contained pictures of the town and Emma herself. Now this, roots under the town. Agent Jordan Black wrote the sentence down without flinching. "Do you know what he meant, Emily?" Emily's eyes didn't leave the fireplace. Her voice was almost dreamlike. He said the tree was just the beginning, that there were tunnels, places people forgot. He called them his safe veins. Emma exchanged a glance with Black. "Veins?" Black leaned in. "Did he say where the tunnels go?" Emily blinked slowly. "He said one of them goes to the church." By sunrise, the Black Ridge First Baptist Church was sealed off. It was one of the oldest buildings in town, dating back to 1889, long before indoor plumbing, before electricity. The original foundation was made of stone, hauled in by ox cart, renovated twice, never rebuilt. Emma stood in the basement with Ace as engineers and FBI techs scanned the ground with portable radar units. "Let's assume she's right," Agent Black said. "Tunnels beneath the church. How would someone access them without anyone noticing?" "Basement access," Emma replied. "Old boiler rooms, maybe under the storage crawl space." Black nodded. "And if he really built his own system down there, we're not just dealing with kidnapping. We're talking full-on survivalist infrastructure." Ace barked once. Emma turned. He was at the far end of the basement, nose pressed to a small metal door, nearly hidden behind boxes of folding chairs and seasonal decorations. She moved closer. No handle, just a circular metal ring and a heavy sliding lock. Ace growled. Emma drew her weapon and motioned for backup. "We've got something." They pried the door open. Behind it was a steep stone staircase. Cold air rushed up like breath from a buried lung. The steps led downward into pitch black. Emma clicked her flashlight on and led the way. Ace followed close. Every muscle in his body was coiled, ears alert, nose twitching. The air changed as they descended, damp, musty, electric. They reached the bottom and entered what looked like a corridor carved out of the earth itself. Stone walls reinforced with old wooden beams, narrow, uneven, ancient. Ace stopped suddenly. Emma followed his gaze and froze. Dozens of small drawings scratched into walls. Children, trees, eyes, a man with no face. In the center of one drawing was a single phrase. "The Hollow One watches from underneath." They followed the tunnel for nearly 60 yards before it split. The left path ended at a rusted ladder, going straight up, likely into a maintenance shed on the church lawn. The right path curved down again. That's where Ace went, and that's where Emma followed. The chamber at the end wasn't large, maybe the size of a bedroom, but the contents: an old twin mattress with hand restraints bolted to the frame, a shelf of survival food, cans, water bottles, vitamins, a filing cabinet with hundreds of pages, dates, photos, scribbled names, and in the center of the room, a chair nailed into the dirt floor. On the chair sat a wooden box. Inside the box, a cassette tape. Blackridge hadn't seen a cassette player in 2 decades, but the FBI techs pulled in an old machine from evidence storage within an hour. When the tape played, the voice was warped, rough, male. "You think you found me," it said, "but I've always been right here, just beneath the roots, just beneath your feet. You walk on me every day. You pray above me. Your kids sing above me. You don't get it yet, but you will." Silence. Then 10, but not the last. By noon, the story hit national news again. Secret tunnels found beneath church in Blackridge. FBI discovers underground chambers in ongoing child abduction case. Hollow One may be local. FBI confirms. People stopped going to services. Parents pulled their kids out of after-school programs. Volunteer potlucks were canceled. Emma walked down Main Street and watched as shopkeepers covered their windows. Curtains closed earlier. No kids played outside anymore. Blackridge felt hunted, and whoever the Hollow One was, he wanted it that way. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She sat in her small living room, Ace's head resting on her foot. She stared at the wall and thought about her own childhood, the town picnics, her parents singing in that very church choir, the Sunday school room with the rainbow mural that still hadn't been painted over. Was he there? Was he watching? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Silence, then a voice, male, calm, familiar. "Nice job, Emma. You found my fingers. Let's see if you find my face." Click. Ace shot up, growling at the front window. Emma grabbed her gun and moved to the door, heart pounding. She threw it open. No one there, just the wind, and pinned to her porch light with a piece of wood, a child's drawing. Stick figures, one of them holding a leash. Next to it, a tall figure with no face, long arms, and roots growing from his feet. At the bottom, in red crayon, "I'm in your yard now." She called it in. By morning, every officer in Blackridge had doubled shifts. FBI teams were placed at every school, church, and municipal building. Trail cams were posted on every major road out of town. But they all knew the truth. He wasn't trying to escape. He was trying to stay. He was inviting the hunt. At 2:03 p.m., a call came in. Another girl, age 11, never made it home from her piano lesson, 5 blocks from the station. The last thing her teacher saw, a man in a blue pickup, waving politely from across the street. No license plate, just an old tree air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror. Emma stood frozen outside the music school. She looked down at Ace. He was already sniffing the sidewalk, and then he looked up, eyes locked straight ahead toward the woods. The sidewalk was still warm from the afternoon sun, but Emma Blake felt cold as ice. She stood outside Melody Lane Piano Studio, the late daylight slanting across the cracked pavement. Her K9 partner, Ace, sniffed near the edge of the curve with short, tight movements, alert, focused, locked in. The girl's name was Aubrey Wells, 11 years old, brown ponytail, a floral backpack, and known for riding her bike everywhere and humming Disney songs while doing it. Now she was gone. Disappeared from Main Street in the middle of the afternoon. No struggle, no screams, no witnesses willing to say they saw what mattered. Only one person had reported something strange. A teacher who noticed a blue pickup parked across the street. The driver looked clean, calm, waved like a neighbor. Waved. That was it. That was all they had until Ace stopped sniffing and let out a bark. Sharp, high-pitched. Emma jogged over. "What is it, boy?" Ace pawed a storm drain just off the sidewalk. Emma crouched. Something was lodged in the grate. She grabbed her glove, reached in and pulled it free. A hair tie, purple, glittery, still warm. Back at the station, Emma laid the hair tie into an evidence bag and walked it straight at Agent Jordan Black, who was leaning over a board full of strings, pins, maps, and nightmares. "From the storm drain," she said. Black raised an eyebrow. "Confirmation?" Emma nodded. "Aubrey's mom says it's hers. She wore it to her lesson." Black's mouth tightened. "So he's using the drains now." Emma sat across from him. "You think he's using storm tunnels to move around?" "I think he's been using them the entire time." He stood and tapped a series of red circles on the map. "Look, every known abduction, from the church tunnels to the tree bunker to the hunting cabin, they all sit within 1 mile of the town's old water system. This thing was built in the early 1900s, never been upgraded. Most of it's dry now, but still passable if you're small or motivated." Emma leaned in. "He's using the town skeleton." Black nodded. "And we've been chasing shadows above ground. They sent in a tech team with blueprints and flashlights. The main tunnel entrance was behind an old service station outside town, a broken chain link fence barely standing, and a rusted manhole buried under leaves. Ace was the first one down. Emma followed, gun on her hip, flashlight in hand. The air was damp and stale. The walls dripped with condensation. Graffiti from teenagers decorated some parts, but further in it was empty, silent, too silent. They moved slowly. For nearly a mile, there was nothing. Then Ace stopped. His ears perked. He sniffed a crack in the tunnel wall, then sat rigid, tail straight. Emma moved in and ran her fingers across the stone. Her flashlight caught a faint glimmer. Carved letters. I took her soft. Her blood ran cold. FBI forensics found boot prints 30 yards ahead. Children's footprints beside the matching Aubrey shoe size. Then something else. A single sticky note pressed to a dry pipe with clear tape. "She's learning to listen." Back above ground, the town was in a panic. Social media exploded. Hashtag Find Aubrey trended within the hour. News vans crowded every parking lot. The mayor gave a tearful press conference. Parents pulled their children from school, from parks, from everything. Black Ridge had become a ghost town in daylight and a hunted town by night. But Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the Hollow One wasn't hiding anymore. He was waiting. That evening, Emma returned home with Ace. She didn't bother turning the lights on. She just sat on the floor with her back against the front door and stared into the dark. Ace lay beside her, head on her knee. "You feel it too, don't you?" she whispered. Ace didn't bark. He didn't need to. At 2:13 a.m., the phone rang. Emma's personal line, no caller ID. She hesitated, then picked up. Static. Then a voice, calm, measured male. "You're close now, Emma." She didn't speak. The voice continued. "But you're still digging in the wrong dirt." Click. Then silence. Ace was already up, staring at the window. Outside, nothing moved. Emma whispered, "We're not chasing him through the woods anymore." She opened her laptop and pulled up the town zoning plans, then the property records, and then the phone books from the 1970s, because something had been gnawing at her since they found the bunker under the church. The photos of the congregation, the drawings of the children, the photo album that had included her. What if the Hollow One didn't just know the town? What if he had been part of it? Emma called Agent Black at dawn. "I want to check the old Kittner property," she said. "Out near Hollow Bend." Black was quiet. "That place burned down 30 years ago." "The land didn't." The Kittner property was a 12-acre stretch of woods and limestone outcroppings on the edge of town, bordered by the train tracks and an old stone quarry. The main house had been gone since 1994. Fire, no known cause, one body recovered, an elderly woman. But the land was still in probate. No one had claimed it. Emma and Black drove out with Ace riding in the back. No sirens, no backup, just instinct. As they pulled up the old gravel path, Ace let out a bark. Emma slammed the brakes. He jumped out the back before the door even opened and ran into the trees. "Ace!" Emma shouted, chasing after him. She followed the sound of his barking, then stopped dead in her tracks. In the clearing ahead stood a cabin, not burned, not abandoned, freshly built, small, hidden behind a wall of shrubs and pine. Emma drew her weapon and crept forward. Black followed closely. Ace stood at the front step, tail low, ears back, growling softly. Emma turned the knob, unlocked. Inside, the air was still. A wood stove, 2 chairs, shelves lined with books, children's books. And in the center of the room, Aubrey Wells, alive, was sitting on the floor, eating soup from a plastic bowl. She looked up, startled but not afraid. "Hi," she said softly. Emma dropped to her knees. "Aubrey, sweetheart, you're okay now." But the girl didn't run into her arms. She pointed behind Emma and whispered. "He said you'd come." The back door slammed. Black ran for it, but the woods swallowed the sound. No footprints, no tire marks, no scent trail, like he vanished into the roots again. Back at the station, Emma sat with Aubrey, who clutched Ace's fur and refused to let go. "He said the town doesn't want to see him," she whispered. "Said he used to walk among them. Said they laughed at him, ignored him." Emma leaned in. "Do you remember his name?" Aubrey looked up and nodded. "He told me his name used to be Mr. Kittner." The name Mr. Kittner landed like a ghost on everyone's desk at the Black Ridge Sheriff Department. No one had spoken that name in decades. Not since the fire, not since the papers reported a quiet, middle-aged music teacher had died in a blaze that consumed his childhood home. No known relatives, no next of kin. Case closed, except now he was back. And not just alive, he'd been hiding in plain sight. Emma Blake sat in the evidence room, staring at a faded yearbook photo from 1979. There he was, Henry Kittner, thick glasses, sweater vest, smiling like he belonged. He taught piano, led the children's choir, walked to work, helped at food drives. But underneath that photo, scribbled in red ink from the recovered journal, were the words, "Roots never die. They just go deeper." Emma slammed the file shut. Across the room, Ace let out a low growl. He was curled near the door, but his ears were up, alert. Emma's radio crackled. "We've got movement at the tree. You're going to want to see this." By the time she arrived at Widowmaker's Oak, the old forest clearing was bathed in gray morning light. The air was cold enough to sting the lungs, and everything was silent, unnaturally so. Deputy Ramirez stood near the perimeter, his face pale. "It's open again." Emma walked forward slowly. The moss-covered door at the base of the oak, the same door that had once led to the hidden staircase, was wide open. Only this time there was no staircase, just a single letter nailed to the inside of the bark. Emma stepped closer. Ace growled softly beside her. She read the first line aloud. "You always knew me, Emma. You just didn't remember." Inside the envelope were 2 things. A childhood drawing, a tree with roots, a little girl, and a German shepherd, and a cassette tape. Back at the station, they played the tape. The voice was calm, older but measured. "I watched you grow up. You were loud, but kind, the kind they always try to crush. You sat next to the girl no one liked. You gave your lunch to the kid who always forgot his. You were never meant to be prey." Pause. "But you found the others. You opened the tree. That makes you a threat." Long silence. Then, "I had 10. You took 10. But I was never after them. I was waiting for the one who could see me." Emma felt the chill crawl up her spine. Then came the final words. "I'm part of this place. I am the roots now, and you walk on me every day." They searched for days. The tree was cordoned off. Tunnels were scanned, cameras installed, but there was no sign of Henry Kittner. Like before, no footprints, no heat signatures, no fibers, no DNA, like the forest had simply opened up and swallowed him whole. But something had changed. The missing children were all back with their families, 10 in total. Emily, the quiet girl from the safe house, was reunited with a foster family in Ohio. Aubrey Wells started therapy and began drawing again. Even Kelsey, who'd been silent since her rescue, whispered a thank you to Ace the day she left town. Black Ridge began to breathe again. Parents let kids play outside. The church reopened its doors. But Emma, she kept walking through the woods. Every week, the same trail, the same tree, Ace always by her side. 3 months later, on a cold Sunday morning, Ace started barking on the north side of town. Emma was out for coffee when he jumped out of the truck, sprinting toward the public library's basement vent. She followed fast. There, tucked inside the grate, was a small object wrapped in red thread, a pine cone hand-carved with a tiny message etched into its side. Still watching, still listening. They never caught Henry Kittner. He vanished like a ghost, or maybe something deeper than a ghost. But the children were safe. The town healed slowly, yes, but surely. And Emma Blake became the story's anchor, the one who chased the roots until they led her home. Ace was promoted to full search and rescue honors, featured in magazines and celebrated as a hero. But he never stopped patrolling, never stopped listening. Because some stories don't really end. They just burrow deeper, waiting for someone brave enough to dig them out. Thank you for following this gripping tale of bravery and mystery. If you've made it this far, you've walked beside Emma and Ace through every heart-pounding moment of their emotional journey. We want to know, what do you think happened to Henry Kittner? Did he vanish into the forest? Or is he still hiding among the town he once haunted? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to K9 Miracle Stories for more thrilling K9 tales like this one. Hit that subscribe button now. Join our community and don't miss the next chapter. Because heroes like Ace are always listening, and we're here to tell their stories. Subscribe today.